Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Phil Penarski here with the News 8 Live Desk. Hope you're having a great day so far. Your Michigan Panthers have officially completed the regular season of the inaugural United Football League season, falling just short of a win in their season finale. But the good news is the team is set to still continue the season in the playoffs as they get set to take on the Birmingham Stallions this Saturday in the USFL Conference Championship Game. The head coach of the Michigan Panthers, Mike Nolan, stops by the Live Desk once again. Coach, it is so great to see you again. We always love having you on here.
Thank you, Phil. It's always a pleasure to be on with you.
Absolutely. And, we want to do a bit of a season review, if you don't mind, Coach, kind of starting off. I mean, obviously, a lot of ups and downs this season, a lot of things to really remember in this first season in the UFL. You guys, of course, had a 5-game winning streak during the season, dealt with a myriad of injuries. You are playoff bound, a lot of ups and downs, as I mentioned. And you've had some tough losses, a lot of gritty wins. I mean, what do you make of this season? What do you really classify this season as, with all of these different turmoils and really great start to the season, falling to 2-2, the winning streak, all that stuff?
Well, as you just mentioned, we started out the season kind of back and forth. We won our first, lost our second, then won and lost. So we were 2-2 at that point. And we were kind of finding our way, as most of the teams were at that particular time. But obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, but we got onto a winning streak of 5 games. And that was obviously a good time during that time. We had some nice wins. All the games this season, regardless of the opponent's record and all, were very close games. And I think that was pretty evident throughout the season for all teams. The other day we saw 2 teams with 1-8 records yesterday in Memphis and Houston play. And they were both 1-8 on the season, but everybody who played them had, it was tough. They were a tough win if you beat them. And so it was a very competitive league this way. That's one thing that you found out real quick, regardless of people's records. You couldn't just, walk in and waltz along and just think you're going to get a win. You had to really put forth quite the effort to get the victory. And so it's very competitive in the UFL this year. The teams were twice as good as they were a year ago in the USFL, as well as the XFL. And that was, I think, largely due to the fact that we took 16 teams down to 8. So anytime you do that, obviously everybody's going to have a larger, quality player than they had before. And that was evident throughout. So I thought from an inaugural season of the UFL, very good quality football, which it still is right now going into these championship weekends. And, like I said, great football, great competition. And obviously we're covered by some very good networks, which always helps you.
Absolutely. And, I think, you mentioned just the competitiveness of this league and, finishing 7-3 for you guys has got to be super duper great to know that you guys played all these really competitive teams and still were able to come out on top. And as I mentioned, you guys are in the playoffs despite dealing with all of those injuries, specifically at the quarterback position. That has been one of the big talking points of the entire league. 4 different quarterbacks not only started for you guys and got a lot of playing time, but, also played pretty well. What would you make of sort of the quarterback play and having to deal with that game in and game out of, having to swap around the quarterback room and not really deciding on who your starter was going to be until probably right before the game?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd say the 2 things that come to mind real quickly when I'm thinking about our quarterback position is, number one, obviously the quarterbacks and the fact that we did go through 4 quarterbacks throughout this season. And then the second thing is really a big part of the whole puzzle and why they were successful is Marcel Belfay, our offensive coordinator, this is his first year with us. He was with the Philadelphia Stars, the last 2 years, and they had a very good offense both those years. And this year for us, he's been instrumental in our offensive success. They've done a great job. We've been able to run the ball extremely well, and we'll need to do that in this next game coming up in these next 2 games if we're lucky to play in 2 more games. But those are the 2 things I think are evident. Like I said, Marcel has done a great job. He's not only offensive coordinator, but he's the quarterback's coach. Extremely intelligent. All of our offensive players, I believe, this year learned a lot about offense as well as their own positions. I think he's a great teacher. I think he's been a great asset to the other offensive coaches and their learning process. And so putting those 2 things together, the quarterbacks, the offensive coordinator, and the coaches, is a large reason why the quarterback position has been as successful as it has been. It's been quite a group effort to make it work, but again, we've had good people working together and good players as well.
Absolutely. And Coach, I know you're a defensive guy. And the defense, once again, this year for the Panthers was exceptional. A lot of great moments, a lot of great players, But I got to ask, is that something that you always love seeing? Is that maybe the side of the ball that you always kind of look forward to and maybe you're most looking forward to, especially come playoff time? Defense wins championships. That's always the saying. I mean, do you ever catch yourself on the sideline just watching in awe of Breland Speaks and Kai Nakua and all these other great players just kind of stepping up to the plate and really making these key stops in that bend don't break defense all season long?
I was retired a couple of years back, and then I got back in this for the sole reason of trying to help others, achieve their goal of getting into the NFL, whether that's coaches and players alike. And so when I'm watching our defense right now, currently, and last year I was the defensive coordinator as well as head coach. I am not this year. I handed it over to one of our assistants in Colin Bauer, who's done an extremely good job, along with the other two coaches in Brock Marion and Christian Runza on offense. But they've done a really good job. You already mentioned the players. I do believe it all starts with the players. And we've got a very good, talented group of players on defense that make you proud every day. They're not only good players, but they're great team players, very unselfish, and do a really good job of playing together. We got a real closeness on the entire football team, but defense and offense, both independently of one another, are real close. So when I think about our defense, the thing that makes me most pleased is the fact that they are close. They're enjoying it. They're playing football the way it's supposed to be played, and the coaches are coaching them the same way. So those two things, when you put them together, good players, good coaching, you're destined to have a good group, and it's really I would say it's really what I want to say. It's the results that you're seeing are really due to those two groups coming together, players and the coaches that are on that side of the ball. And they are exciting to watch. And we'll need a great effort this week again to get a win.
And hopefully they can kind of replicate the success they had against the offensive line of the Stallions that we saw last Saturday. They racked up 5 total sacks, 3 in that first half. So that was always fun to watch. And Coach, I do want to shift over now to the playoffs, if you don't mind. Obviously, you were the head coach of the Panthers last season when they were in the USFL and made it to the playoffs again, but came up short against Pittsburgh. What are you looking for? Did you take anything away from that last year's playoff game that you want to bring into this year and let everybody know on the team side of things just what to expect, some things to keep in mind, or really to avoid any potential things that you wanted to avoid last year?
Well, last year we got into the same situation. Obviously, we were in the playoffs as the first round, as we did the other day, and that was we had an opportunity to put closure to the game the other day and win it. We had a 4th and 7 that we didn't convert on, and had we done, I'm talking about the defensive side, had we won that battle, then we'd have been off the field and game over. So the thing that happened last year against Pittsburgh, it was the same thing. We played them 3 times. We lost to them all 3 times. Now we've already lost to Birmingham twice by very close football games. But again, we don't want, what I learned from is I don't want to do 3 again. So hopefully we can avoid that. But a lot of things came out of the game the other day. I thought our guys didn't flinch. They played extremely hard the entire football game. Birmingham's a very good football team, so it'll take a great effort by us to defeat them this coming week, and hopefully that's what happens. But as far as comparing the 2 years, I would say, like I said, it's just the fact that we're in the playoffs again, just like we were a year ago. But this time we need to win one to get onto that championship game.
And giving all the players an extra game to really show off everything that they've worked on all season long has got to feel pretty good too. Coach, we do have to switch over to the Birmingham side of things. Before we let you go, obviously, this is going to be a big matchup. This is going to be the 3rd time you guys have faced them this season. And as you mentioned, the games have been close despite losing both of them. It's only by a margin of 8 total points. You guys were in prime position Saturday, but made just a few mistakes. Obviously, the missed field goal at the very end, those penalties in the 4th quarter. But does that help at all, knowing that you guys really were in position to win that game and that Birmingham can be beat if you guys just clean up those mistakes? Or does it kind of make you a little bit more upset knowing that you had that game, but those mistakes ended up costing you guys?
We won't know until game time what it does, but I would hope that it just maintains a hunger for victory. And that's really what you hope. The game was meaningful to both teams as far as just, pride and playing the game for why you started to play as a kid. Even, you You play because you love the game and you love to play it. And both teams, I thought, showed that yesterday in the ball game. And this game that's coming up means a little bit more. Obviously, it's an opportunity to continue on and go to the championship game. So both teams had an added element coming up for this week. But the fact that we played each other, I think, just it's helpful from every player's standpoint. They've already played each other. I think the what ifs and the maybes, meaning what they actually think they're going to go into, a lot of that's gone when you play somebody back-to-back weeks. There's less of the wondering about what a guy feels like and what he's able to do. You've kind of experienced it already. So now it just comes down to you playing your best game versus your best opponent.
And we're looking forward to that one. Again, that game is set to kick off this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can watch it over on